I didn't scream when they put the bag over my head. I'd been arrested 3 times before. Different cities, different charges. You learn fast that panic only makes it worse. This time was different though. No shouting, no insults, no paperwork read aloud. Just quiet hands, efficient, almost respectful. I'm 23, long hair tied back. Grew up bouncing between dojos and shooting ranges. My uncle trained private security before he disappeared. He taught me discipline, control, how to end a fight before it really begins. That's probably why I'm here. The transport took hours, maybe longer. I lost track after the second time we stopped and no one got in or out. The engine never shut off. Not once. When the hood came off, I was already inside. The prison didn't look illegal. That was the problem. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights, clean floors, too clean. No graffiti, no stains, no noise. Prisons are never this quiet. Even the air felt filtered, like a hospital pretending to be a cage. A guard stood in front of me. No name tag, no rank, no emotion. "Follow the line," he said. There was a yellow stripe painted on the floor. It didn't lead to a cell, just straight forward, deeper into the building. Every door we passed was sealed. No windows, no numbers, no way to tell how far underground we were. I tried conversation. That usually works. "What's this place called?" He didn't answer. I noticed then that none of the guards carried batons or tasers, just sidearms, all the same model, worn but meticulously cleaned. We stopped in front of a door with no handle. It slid open on its own. Inside was a cell already occupied. The man looked up when I entered. Japanese, maybe my age. Short hair, calm eyes, too calm. He studied me for a long second, then glanced at the camera in the corner and looked away. That's when he spoke, quiet, almost bored. "Don't ask where we are," he said, "and don't try to leave early." The door closed behind me. No slam, no lock sound, just silence. And for the first time since my arrest, I felt something I couldn't train away. Not fear, uncertainty. I learned the rules before I learned the schedule. No one explained them officially. There were no posters, no announcements. You just noticed that everyone obeyed them without question. Rule 1, never touch the doors unless the lights are fully on. The lights dimmed twice a day. Not off, never off, just low enough to make shadows stretch wrong. When that happened, no one moved. Men froze mid-step. Conversations stopped. One guy reached for his cell door once just to lean on it. The alarms didn't sound. The door opened. They dragged him out later. What came back wasn't him. We didn't talk about it again. Rule 2, if you hear your name, you stay quiet. No one said it out loud, but we all knew. Sometimes, late in the cycle, a voice would drift through the hall. Calm, familiar, perfect pronunciation. Not screaming, not threatening, just calling. The first time it happened, I stood up without thinking. The man across from me grabbed my wrist so hard I thought he broke it. "Don't answer," he whispered. "They only use names when they're sure." Rule 3, sleep when you're allowed, never when you're not. There was no clock, no windows, but the body knew. When the exhaustion hit, you slept. When it lifted, you stayed awake. People who forced sleep during wake cycles didn't wake up right. One inmate started screaming that his arms were too long. Another said the ceiling was breathing. They removed both before the next cycle. Rule 4, if someone says wake up, you wake up immediately. That one didn't make sense to me at first, until it happened. I don't remember falling asleep. I remember standing in the hall one moment. Then suddenly I was on my bunk, heart racing, sweat soaking the sheets. The lights were dim. Someone was shaking my shoulder. Hard. "Wake up," a voice hissed. Male. Panicked. "Wake up now. They're killing people." I sat up too fast. My vision swam. The man standing over me wasn't a guard. Long hair like mine. Blood on his sleeve that wasn't his. "They're opening doors early," he said. "Something's wrong. This isn't the cycle." From down the hall, metal screamed. A door opening when it wasn't supposed to. then yelling, then gunfire. Real gunfire. Controlled bursts. The guards. The man grabbed my arm. His grip was shaking. "If you're going to run," he said, eyes locked on mine, "you run now. First wake always survives." The lights flickered. Someone screamed my name. And for the first time since I arrived, the rules started breaking. The man didn't wait for my answer. He pulled me off the bunk and shoved me toward the cell door. It slid open the instant my feet hit the floor. No delay, no sound. That alone was wrong. The hall was chaos. Inmates were running without direction, some barefoot, some bleeding. A few were on their knees, hands over their ears, whispering apologies to no one. The lights stuttered between dim and bright like the building couldn't decide what time it was. "Don't look in the cells," the man said, pushing me forward. "Whatever you hear, don't stop." We rounded a corner and nearly ran straight into a body. A guard. His rifle was still in his hands, finger locked on the trigger, muzzle pointed at the ceiling. His face looked untouched. No blood, no wounds, but his eyes were wide and empty, like something had switched him off mid-thought. "Did you?" I started. "No," the man said sharply. "They don't kill guards like that." We stepped over him. Gunfire echoed deeper in the block. Short bursts. Professional. The guards weren't panicking, they were containing. A door ahead slid open. Inside, 3 inmates were screaming. Not at us, at the ceiling. The walls were wrong. Not broken, not bloody, just subtly off like the angles didn't agree with each other. I felt dizzy looking too long. My companion slammed the door shut and dragged me away. "You see it now?" he said. "This place doesn't react to damage. It reacts to awareness." I didn't answer. I was too busy trying to remember how long I'd been here. Hours? Days? He slowed near a junction where the yellow line split into 3 paths, something I hadn't seen before. "That's new," he muttered. The line was changing. One path flickered like bad footage. One ended abruptly at a wall that hadn't existed before. The third pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. "That way," he said, pointing, "before it notices we're awake." I grabbed his wrist. "Why me?" He hesitated. "Because you didn't wake up screaming," he said. "And because you're still moving like a human." A voice rolled through the hall. Not loud, not echoed. Direct. "Return to your assigned location." Every inmate who heard it froze. Every single one except me. The man's eyes widened. "You didn't hear it." "I did hear it. I just didn't feel the need to obey." The lights went out completely. For the first time since I arrived, the prison blinked, and something behind the walls shifted, like it finally realized someone was looking back. I tightened my fists around the handle of the stolen baton. My heart was hammering, but my mind was clear. I trained for situations like this, not exactly this, but enough to survive chaos. The man beside me whispered, "Move, don't stop, don't look back." I didn't argue. The corridor ahead split into 3 paths. The left path had doors opening and closing wildly, metal scraping, sounds of screaming. The middle corridor smelled like smoke, and the flickering lights made shadows dance along the walls. The right, I didn't even consider it. I ran straight for the middle. The first scream hit me mid-step. A guy tripped over his own feet, his hands clawing at the walls. A guard's rifle went off just a few meters from us. 1 inmate down instantly. I ducked instinctively, rolled, and slammed my shoulder into the nearest wall to push off. Martial arts training, reflexes, timing, all of it came together. I grabbed a metal rod lying on the floor and swung at the first person who lunged at me. Not a normal attack, they weren't just trying to hurt me. They were panicking, wild, desperate. 1 hit to the arm, 1 to the knee, and I shoved them out of the way. They screamed. I kept moving. The man beside me was slower, panting. I glanced at him and hissed, "Move or die." He nodded. We hit the next junction. Another body lay sprawled. Someone had tried to barricade the doors. Not sure if it was inmate or guard. Didn't matter. Gunfire broke out from above. Not aimed at us, but anywhere near us. The walls shook with every impact. I kicked the door in front of us. It held for a second before giving way, and we slipped inside. The hallway was empty. Too empty. The smell hit me. Sweat, blood, smoke, and something metallic I couldn't place. The man whispered, "They're closing in. They always do this, trap you in sections." I smirked, sort of. Good thing I don't panic. He gave me a look. "You're crazy. Better crazy than dead." I kept moving, running, ducking, swinging, and using every ounce of skill I had. Martial arts wasn't just fighting. It was balance, movement, anticipation. Gun handling came from instinct and patience. The hallway narrowed, forcing me to take cover behind pipes and doors, timing every step between gunfire. Bodies were everywhere, screaming, writhing, bleeding, but I didn't stop. I could hear them screaming behind the walls, but I didn't look. I didn't hesitate. Somehow, the chaos became a rhythm. I saw the patterns, the doors, the guards, the panicked inmates, and I moved through them like water. We reached another junction. The man stopped, gasping. "Can you keep going?" he asked. I nodded. "I've gone further than this before. Let's move." He followed. The next corridor, it wasn't right. Lights flickered faster here. Shadows stretched across walls that shouldn't exist. But I didn't care. I only cared about moving, surviving, staying ahead of the chaos. I realized then, this place only works if you stop thinking like a normal person. Fear didn't matter. Hesitation didn't matter. Only skill, only mental clarity, only movement. And I had both. I grinned faintly, not because it was fun, not because I was confident, because everyone else was dying while I kept moving. And in a place like this, that was all that counted. The man didn't make it. We were halfway down the corridor when he stumbled. Not from exhaustion. His foot caught on something that wasn't there a second ago. The floor dipped, subtly, like the concrete had softened just enough to trip him. He went down hard. I turned back instinctively, grabbed his collar, and pulled. He screamed, not in pain, but in realization. "They're closing it," he gasped. "There." A door behind us slammed open. Not slid, slammed. 2 guards rushed out, rifles up. No shouting, no warning. One of them fired immediately. I dragged the man sideways. The round punched into the wall where his head had been. Dust exploded into the air. "Run," I said. He tried. He really did. But his leg didn't listen anymore. Another burst. Clean. Controlled. He dropped. I didn't stay to see what happened next. I ran. The corridor narrowed again, forcing me to slow. My breathing stayed steady, short, controlled exhales. Panic wastes oxygen. Fear makes mistakes. I'd learned that young. The prison was louder now. Not alarms. Movement. Metal shifting behind walls. Doors opening where there shouldn't be doors. I ducked into a side room and pressed myself against the wall just as guards passed. Their boots were out of sync. One limped. Another dragged something heavy that scraped along the floor. A body. An inmate. Still alive. I clenched my jaw until my teeth hurt. When the footsteps faded, I moved again. I found a staircase that went up, then immediately down, then up again. No signage. No logic. I took it anyway. Elevation meant exits in most buildings. I wasn't betting on this one being normal, but I needed something to believe in. Halfway up, someone grabbed me from behind. I reacted without thinking. Elbow, turn, sweep. He hit the steps hard, air knocked out of him. Young, maybe 19, eyes wide, terrified. "Don't," he said quickly. "Please." "I'm not." I didn't finish the thought. I pulled him up instead. "Rules?" I asked. He swallowed. "They're gone. People are just dying." Doors opening at random. Guards shooting anything that moves. "Anyone get out?" He shook his head. "No one who waited." That confirmed what I already knew. We moved together after that. Faster, quieter. At the next landing, we saw it. A cell block ripped open like it had been peeled back. Walls torn inward. bodies scattered, guards and inmates mixed together. No sign of a fight, just aftermath. The kid stared too long. "Don't stop," I said, grabbing his shoulder. Something shifted above us. Not a sound. Pressure change, like the air itself leaned closer. Gunfire erupted from below. Screams followed, cut off too quickly. The kid whispered, "This place is wrong." I didn't answer. I already knew. We reached another door. Heavy. Industrial. No markings. It wasn't open. I put my hands on it and pushed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then it opened. Not because I was strong, because it let me. On the other side was a long hallway, lights fully on, quiet. Too quiet. I stepped through. The kid hesitated. "What if? If we stay, we die," I said. "If we move, we might not." That was enough. The door closed behind us. Not fast. Slow. Deliberate. Like it wanted us to hear it. And somewhere deep in the prison, something shifted again, closer this time. Not hunting. Reorganizing. The hallway didn't stay quiet. We'd barely gone 20 steps when the scream hit. Close, sharp, and wet. Not fear. Pain. A man burst out of a side door ahead of us, clutching his stomach. Blood poured between his fingers in thick, dark streams, splattering onto the floor with every step. Something shiny slid out between his hands and slapped against the concrete. Intestines. He looked at them like they didn't belong to him. He took 2 more steps before his legs gave out. When he hit the ground, his head cracked against the floor hard enough that I heard bone. He twitched once, then nothing. The kid gagged. "Eyes up," I snapped. "Don't freeze." We stepped around the body. My boots left wet prints. The smell hit a second later. Iron, bile, and something sour that burned the back of my throat. Ahead, a guard staggered out of another corridor, helmet missing. His face was peeled open along one side like someone had tried to remove it in a hurry. One eye hung useless, staring at nothing. He raised his rifle anyway. I moved before he could aim. 1 step in, strike to the throat. I felt cartilage collapse under my forearm. He made a sound like air leaking from a tire and dropped, blood bubbling from his mouth in short, desperate bursts. I caught the rifle before it hit the floor. The kid stared at me. "Still with me?" I asked. He nodded too fast. We kept moving. Further down, we passed a cell where someone had tried to crawl out through the bars. The metal was bent outward, but not enough. Skin and muscle had been torn clean off his shoulders. Red meat smeared along the steel like someone had dragged him back inside piece by piece. He was still alive. Barely. His jaw moved, working soundlessly. One eye had burst, just an empty, leaking socket now. I didn't stop. Neither did the prison. The lights flickered once, longer this time, and when they came back, the hallway behind us was different. Narrower. Bloodier. Like it had always been that way. The kid whispered, "It's changing." Then we moved faster. Another scream echoed ahead, cut short by a crunch that made my teeth grind together. We broke into a run. Whatever was happening here, it wasn't punishment. It was processing, and we were still unbroken. For now, we didn't hear it at first. That was the worst part. No footsteps, no breathing, just a pressure in the air, like walking into a room where a fight already happened and the winner hasn't left yet. The kid slowed. I grabbed his collar and pulled him forward. "Don't stop," I said. We turned a corner and saw what everyone had been running from. It was crouched over a body. An inmate split open from chest to stomach. Ribs snapped outward like broken fingers. Whatever it was had its hands buried inside him, slick with blood, pulling something free and shoving it into its mouth. It wasn't huge. That made it worse. Humanoid shape, long arms, too many joints, skin stretched tight over muscle like it had been assembled wrong. His head tilted at an angle no neck should allow, jaw hanging loose, chewing wetly. It looked up, eyes locked on us. The kid screamed. I fired. The rifle bucked hard against my shoulder. The first round punched into its chest, spraying dark blood across the wall. Staggered but didn't fall. The second shot took part of its shoulder off. Bone snapped. Meat tore. Smiled. Not happy. Not angry. Interested. It moved fast. Too fast. I shoved the kid aside as it lunged. Claws tore through the air where his head had been, slammed into the wall instead. Concrete cracked. I felt the vibration through my bones. I closed the distance. Bad idea, but backing up gets you killed. I smashed the rifle but into its jaw. Teeth exploded out of its mouth like gravel. It shrieked, high and broken, and slashed back. Something raked across my side. Pain flared hot and immediate. I kicked its knee sideways. It bent the wrong way. The thing collapsed, screeching, thrashing, blood smearing the floor. I didn't hesitate. I put 3 rounds into its head. The last one turned it into paste. Silence. My ears rang. My hands shook. Not from fear, but from adrenaline dumping all at once. I pressed a hand to my side. Blood soaked through my fingers, warm and fast. The kid stared at the thing on the floor. "That's not human," he whispered. "No," I said, "but it bleeds." That mattered. More screams echoed from deeper in the prison. Gunfire, then nothing. We weren't the only ones who'd seen it. We moved again, slower now, quieter. Every shadow looked wrong. Every sound set my nerves on edge. As we passed another corridor, I saw more bodies. Not all torn apart. Some were shot. Some were crushed. Some looked like they tried to fight back and lost. Whatever those things were, there was more than one. And they weren't here to scare us. They were here to clear us out. I tightened my grip on the rifle and kept moving. I wasn't special. I wasn't chosen. I was just stubborn, trained, and still breathing. And in a place like this, that was enough to keep you alive a little longer. I kept moving. Staying still gets you measured. Measured gets you killed. The kid stayed close behind me now, breathing hard, shoes slipping in blood. We passed a guard checkpoint that had been turned into a slaughterhouse. One guard was pinned to the wall by his own rifle, barrel shoved clean through his mouth and out the back of his skull. Another was missing his lower half entirely. Spine and ribs gnawed down to white, pelvis cracked open like something had cracked it for marrow. The kid gagged again. This time he vomited. I dragged him forward anyway. "Wipe your mouth," I said. "Quiet." A sound echoed ahead of us. Not a roar, not a scream. Dragging. Something heavy being pulled across concrete. We ducked into a side corridor and crouched behind an overturned metal cart. I could hear it now. Wet breathing, uneven, like lungs full of fluid. Shadows moved at the far end of the hall. Then another one stepped into the light. This one was bigger. Its torso was thicker. Chest split open from an old wound that never healed. You could see muscle flexing underneath, see something pulsing where organs should have been. Its arms were long enough that its knuckles scraped the floor as it walked. One leg dragged uselessly behind it, but it didn't slow it down. Behind it, 2 more shapes shifted. The kid's hand tightened around my sleeve. There's 3, he whispered. "I see them." The first one stopped. His head tilted. It sniffed the air, tongue sliding out between broken teeth. Blood dripped steadily from its mouth, pattering onto the floor. I raised the rifle. The shot echoed like a bomb in the narrow hall. The round took it in the neck. Half its throat disappeared in a spray of meat and blood, but it didn't drop. It staggered forward, choking, hands clawing at its own ruined throat. The other 2 charged. I emptied the magazine. One went down screaming, its leg blown apart at the knee, bones sticking out like snapped rebar. The other tackled me before I could reload. We hit the floor hard. This weight crushed the air out of my lungs. This breath was hot and rotten. Claws dug into my shoulder, peeling flesh away. I slammed my forehead into its face once, twice, felt cartilage collapse. It bit me anyway. Teeth sank into my forearm. I felt them scrape bone. I roared and drove my thumb into its eye. The eye burst. It shrieked and thrashed. I rolled, grabbed the fallen guard's sidearm from the floor, and shoved it under its jaw. I fired. His head snapped back violently. Blood and brain matter sprayed the ceiling and rained down on both of us. The body went limp on top of me, twitching. I shoved it off and staggered to my feet, arms screaming in pain. The kid stood frozen, staring at the carnage. "Move!" I shouted. That snapped him out of it. We ran. Behind us, the wounded one dragged itself forward, howling, leaving a thick red smear behind it. Something else answered its call from deeper in the prison. Something closer. I didn't look back. My arm burned. My side was slick with blood. My legs felt heavy, but I was still standing. And as long as I could still stand, I could still kill whatever came next. The prison echoed with screams, gunfire, and those wet, hungry sounds. This wasn't a riot anymore. It was a purge, and we were running out of time. We didn't stop running until my lungs burned raw. The corridor dumped us into what looked like a processing wing. Metal detectors torn apart, plastic trays scattered, blood smeared in long handprints along the walls. A dead inmate lay folded over a bench, spine bent backward far enough that his head almost touched the floor behind him. His mouth was open like he'd tried to scream and forgot how. The kid slowed. I didn't. A shot rang out ahead, single, precise. Then another. Guards. We slid behind a concrete divider as two soldiers backed down the hall, firing in short bursts. Something slammed into the wall near them, hard enough to dent the steel. One guard stumbled. A claw punched through his chest from behind, burst out the front in a spray of red. The thing yanked him backward so fast his boots left the floor. The second guard didn't scream. He just kept firing until the rifle clicked empty. Then the monster hit him. There was a sound like tearing cloth. And then the guard was in pieces. I grabbed the kid and pulled him the other way. My arm was numb now. Blood soaked my sleeve all the way to the elbow. I could feel it dripping off my fingers, hitting the floor in steady taps. I didn't care. Pain was later. We burst through a fire door and into a stairwell. Always up. Halfway up, the kid slipped. I caught him by the collar just as something smashed through the door below us. The metal buckled inward like it was paper. We climbed faster. At the top, daylight punched through a narrow window. Real light. The kid laughed, short, hysterical. "We're out. We're." The window shattered. Something slammed through and landed between us on the stairs. This one was different. Thinner. Faster. Its skin was torn open in places. Ribs visible. Black blood pumping with every movement. His jaw hung loose, split down the middle, tongue twitching like it was tasting the air. It looked at the kid first. I stepped in front of him. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I charged. The first hit broke its collarbone. The second cracked its skull enough that blood poured down its face like a curtain. It slashed back, claws ripping into my side, opening me to the ribs. I felt warmth spill, felt something inside me shift wrong. I drove my knee up into its chest. Bone snapped. I put the pistol under its chin and fired twice. Its head came apart. The body dropped and didn't get back up. Silence. Just my breathing. The kids sobbing. Blood dripping down the stairs. I leaned against the wall and slid down slowly. The kid knelt in front of me, hands shaking. You're bleeding a lot." "I know," I said. Sirens wailed outside. Distant. Real. Doors slammed open above us. Boots. Shouting. Orders. I forced myself back to my feet. "Get up," I told him. "Don't stop now." We climbed the last flight together. The exit door was open. Bright. Cold. Night air. As we crossed the threshold, I glanced back once, just once. Down below, something moved in the dark of the stairwell. Watching. Waiting. Then the door slammed shut behind us, and the alarms drowned everything else out. Cold air hit me like a punch. I barely felt my feet touch the ground outside before my legs gave out. Concrete rushed up. Hands caught me, gloved, rough, efficient. Someone shouted for a stretcher. Someone else shouted my inmate number like it meant something. Floodlights turned the night white. The prison loomed behind us, tall and silent again, like nothing had happened. No screams, no gunfire, just walls and wire and guards standing too straight, rifles aimed inward. The kid was pulled away from me, still yelling, trying to look back. "He saved me," he shouted. "He saved." A hand clamped over his mouth. I tried to sit up. A boot pressed gently but firmly against my chest and kept me down. "Stay still," a voice said. Calm. Japanese. Official. "You're alive because you followed instructions." I laughed. Came out wet. "I didn't follow shit." The man looked down at me. No badge. No name. Just tired eyes. "You will," he said. "From now on." They loaded me into the ambulance. As the doors closed, I caught one last glimpse of the prison entrance. Something dark stood just inside the gate. Not charging, not screaming, just standing there, watching the lights. The doors shut. The ride blurred into pain and sirens and darkness. I drifted in and out. At one point, I felt stitches biting into my side. At another, something cold slid into my arm and the world softened around the edges. When I woke up, the room was white. Hospital white. Too clean. Too quiet. My arm was bandaged. My side wrapped tight. Every breath hurt. A television hung in the corner, muted. A news ticker scrolled across the bottom. Unrest contained at private correctional facility. No survivors reported from inmate riot. No survivors. The door opened. The same man from before stepped in, clipboard in hand. "You're dead," he said plainly. "Officially." I stared at him. "The other inmates," he continued, "were transferred, records sealed. This facility will be decommissioned." I remembered the stairwell, the blood, the things in the dark. "Those things," I said, "they're still in there." He didn't deny it. "They won't leave," he said, "and no one will go back in." He set the clipboard down. "You'll be released under a new identity. No records, no contact. If you ever speak about what happened, you'll kill me," I finished. He shook his head. "No, something worse will." He left without another word. That night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard dragging, wet breathing, the sound of bone snapping under pressure. I'm free now, technically, but sometimes, when it's quiet, when the world goes still, I swear I can smell blood and concrete again. And I know, somewhere behind locked gates and sealed doors, they're still alive, waiting for the next mistake.